we've been talking about showing a clip on how to use the FW1 to greatest effect. It's all ad lib, so hopefully it's easy to understand. We find that the results that this gives is excellent. So we rub these cars down with 1500, then 2000, then we buff them and we hit it with this. This is the fastest buffing method you could think of in a panel shop like ours or a resto shop. So a couple of things that you need to remember: only ever polish a car or wash a car when the panels are cool. If they're hot or warm, whatever you put on there is going to dry on there. Secondly, if the surface has tiny cracks in it, it may not show like cracks, but it'll look milky because your polish gets caught in the fine cracks in the paint. You can't fix that. You can't polish that. It'll just retain polish and it'll look really milky and can even highlight the cracks in it and ruin it. In that case, you've got to repaint the car. If the paint is just faded, like sunburnt, and it goes a little bit milky and it's not cracked, you really should buff the car first. But if you don't have access to that, these products do bring them up. It won't bring a milky red or a milky orange or a milky yellow up. You need to buff it. So I'll just show you how we apply it. When you rock up at a servo and these people rock up to you with this, hey, please let me polish your car, they're trying to sell an excellent product, and obviously the car's hot. They don't rub it in with a foam pad. They'll just use a microfiber cloth. We've got 3, so we always rub it in. You try and work 2 panels at a time, overlapping all the time, and then by the time you get your second panel applied, you can go back to your first panel and take it off with your first microfiber rag. Do the second panel, take it off with your microfiber rag, and then you do the next 2. Do 2 panels at a time, and as you're wiping it, you're making sure that you're overlapping every stroke, putting it on and taking it off. If you do that properly, you'll get a great result. The more that you apply these waxes, the more finer scratches you remove, so the glossier it gets. Water will bead off there, bird poop won't stick to it, tree sap won't stick to it. You've got to be careful because they're acidic. If you leave bird poop or tree sap on hot panels, what happens when anything in the world is hot? It expands. So you can imagine the surface hot, open, bird poop lands in there, it cools down, traps the acids, you won't get that out. Sometimes you can buff it out, but you won't get that out. They have got ceramic coatings and things like that that make it a lot better these days. I prefer not to use those coatings because one day we might have to touch it up, and I don't want any dramas with it, despite what people might say. So I just play it safe. If you use these products, and I use a really good wash and wax product. I wash the cars hot, like hot water when panels are cool, hot water and very, very sudsy with a sponge. Hose off all your loose stuff, sponge it on, wash half the car, hose it all off, go to the other side, wash it with the sponge, soapy, hose it off, let it all drip dry, a nice, good chamois, nice and clean, and then apply this stuff. So, first of all, we give it a really good shake. You don't need a lot, it can be very sparing. So that would just about do the whole panel. Foam pad, make sure there's no grit and dirt in it, and I just rub it in, overlapping every circle. And same thing when you're blocking, same thing when you're painting, everything's overlapped to get even coat. If you leave a bit, well, it'll show up. So we just want to apply that sparingly and neatly, and I can see that already milking off. When you get to corners and that, you let your fingers wrap around the edge. So I'm applying that. I won't do the whole car, just to show you what we do. So as we're talking, that's starting to air and dry. That's all we need on there. So now I'll go to my first rag. You see this one's a little bit dirtier. If these rags are kept in a drawer or a bucket with a sealed top, they can't get grit and dust caught in them. If you can imagine that's got a piece of grit, we go and wipe it, we're just going to scratch that surface. So the cleaner we keep these, the better. We keep these in a drawer in our kitchen here in the office, so make sure that we don't get stuff caught in these microfiber rags. We don't leave them resting on any panels. If we drop them on the floor, we don't use them again. If you have one grain in there and we've just painted a car, we don't want to scratch that paint job with a dirty rag or a rag that's picked up a bit of grit. If you've got water, sudsy water in a bucket, keep that bucket full, because if there's grit in there, it floats or sinks to the bottom. If the bucket hasn't got a lot of water in it, that grit is right at the top. Dip your sponge in and you'll pick that grit up and scratch the car. Nappy buckets are great because they've got lids, so you can keep those away and keep dust out of them. But you can see how easy that is to apply. I've used my dirty rag. Now I check out that surface and I look for any smears that I might have left or that haven't actually dried properly, but always make a clean pad. You know, the more that you can do to eliminate marks and scratches. If I rub it with that side, see how it's all rough? That might scratch it. So I'll make a bit of a pad out of it, put it down and just go over it nice and neat. I can see the surface. It's good to have good lighting. Have the lighting above and away and look into the light, and it shows you that surface very clearly. And that's how much effort is needed. I hope that helps. I'll go over this car again, or this panel again, with the cleaner. So I've got a first rag, a second rag, and then a finishing rag. Again, you can apply this many times. Great product, easy to use, always when the panels are cool and the panels are clean. Hope it helps.